Welcome to the Make Your Mark podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Mark Moyer, author of Win Again, speaker, career coach, and business advisor. And I help athletes, executives, and entrepreneurs reach their fullest potential. What you're going to be hearing in every single episode are conversations with athletes and other sports-related influencers. And we'll be offering you the insight that you need to succeed in life, including advice that will let you jump past your competition, whether it be for a great new job or taking your business to a much, much higher level. Make sure to connect with me on social media at Mark Moyer Coach and go to my website, markmoyer.com, to get access to the tips and strategies that my coaching clients get directly. If you're looking for ways to make your mark, send me an email to mark@markmoyer.com and I'll get you going right away. Thanks for joining me today. It's going to be an awesome episode. Now, are you ready to make your mark? Let's do this. Welcome to the Make Your Mark podcast. My name is Mark Moyer and I'm broadcasting to you live from New York City. And I'm super thrilled to have you wherever you're listening. If it's here in New York, somewhere else in the United States, or anywhere else on our planet, thrilled to have you on board. And I'm super excited because I just finished chatting with Michaela Alexis. And she is, without a doubt, one of these people that has really grabbed the bull by the horns. She's taking advantage of a social media outlet, which in this case is LinkedIn, and she's created such an amazing business for herself. People love her. They love watching her video content. She's amazing. And you're going to love this episode because we cover so much ground, including all these different ways that you yourself can leverage LinkedIn to great success in 2019. I'm telling you, you're not going to want to miss this episode. But before you jump in, make sure you subscribe to my podcast. Whether you're listening on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're listening, please subscribe. And go to my website, markmoyer.com, for amazing, great content. I mean, there's so much of it on there. Advice on how to take your career to a whole new level or your business to greater success. You can also access all the previous podcasts there. There's just so much stuff there, so go there when you have a chance. But now, jump into this episode with Michaela. She's amazing. We had so much fun. The episode flew by. It was such a good one. So jump in now, and happy listening. Hey everyone, welcome to the Make Your Mark podcast. I am super duper excited to have Michaela Alexis of...
Ooh, you did it.
I did it. Of LinkedIn fame and every other fame. And she hails from somewhere north of me. I'm in Manhattan and she's in?
Ottawa, Canada.
Ottawa or Ottawa?
It's definitely Ottawa, I think.
Okay. All right. I've heard it a bunch of different ways, but anyway, that's welcome to the show. And we're going to cover a ton of ground today because, I feel, and I know you agree with me, that most people, especially professionals or people that are running businesses, don't leverage the power of LinkedIn. And I spend a lot of time on that, but I know you spend a ton of time on that. And you've got, I think it's between 2 and 3 trillion followers. And, they love seeing all the content that you put out, but also the caliber of the content, which is really critical because I can tell you as a coach that I see the caliber of the content that other people put out, and it's horrible. Right. Horrible. And they get paid for this sort of thing. So we're going to jump into a lot of things. But before we do all that, I want to hear from you on, how did you sort of get here? And I'm going to do this in little chunks because I think it's something where when you were, for argument's sake, 18, 19, 20, 21, there's no way you thought you were going to be doing this right now, right?
Oh God, no. Yeah, it's interesting because now looking back, it makes complete sense to me. Like when I was 8, I was reading autobiographies of male ballet dancers and entering essay writing competitions just for fun. And I loved public speaking. I was just a dork. Like I was constantly pale because I wouldn't go outside. My mom was constantly trying to get me to do like normal kid stuff, and I wouldn't. But you kind of you go through school and they almost like shake the creativity out of you, where you get to a point, especially like in high school, where you no longer are thinking about, I want to be an astronaut and I want to be a superhero and all these things. And it's like, okay, what are you actually going to do? Because that's not realistic. And writing for me was one of those things where I was like, I'm probably never going to make a living off of it. I live in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. It's a very sleepy government city. Most people end up just graduating and getting a government job. And so I was kind of like a little bit like pushed into doing more of that stuff. So I pushed aside a lot of those aspirations, went to school. I actually did 3 years in film studies because I was still kind of holding on to that whole creative dream. Realized within the third year, I'm like, unless I move to like New York or Toronto, I'm not going to be able to make this work here. And switched over into legal studies of all things, just to like complete polar opposite of what I'm doing now, and graduated with distinctions in legal studies. And it was about a week before my LSATs test, and I don't know if it was panic or my heart was like, I just don't want to be a lawyer, and got super, super drunk one day, went online and booked a flight to LA and escaped to California instead of taking my LSATs. And
that's great.
And then here I am.
Oh my God, that's funny. And so I'm sure the family was like, wait, we thought you were going to be a lawyer and make lots of money for us and everything. And now you're chilling out in LA, La La Land. And so when you got out there, though, it's funny. I'm a New Yorker by nature, by heart. I do everything super fast. I'm really impatient. Tourists are always in my way here in New York, all that stuff. And I'm a nice guy, but I'm impatient. And, out in LA, when I was out there, I'd be walking around somewhere and people would be like, dude, man, what's the big rush? You got to slow down. And I'd say, look, I got to go from point A to point B. And they'd be like, just chill. And I'm like, no, I don't have to. It drove me bananas that people were like that out there, but everyone is really chill. And so did you notice that, or what was it like for you?
It's so funny that you say that. So I go to Hawaii quite a bit over the past 2 years. And I had a driver one time, and he told me, he's like, I can tell if somebody's from the East Coast or the West Coast before I pick them up, depending on how many phone calls I get.
Great.
And I thought that was so hilarious. Even like me being Canadian, I'm definitely more on like the East Coast side. I'm 3 hours away from Syracuse, so like I'm pretty close to New York, and we definitely have a faster pace. It's definitely a little bit more laid back. It depends on where you are too. Like LA, there's a lot of hustle and bustle there, but I definitely went there to just spend my days just soaking up sun and exploring and escaping all adult responsibilities. So it was fun while it lasted, and until my.
Wait, I still do that. What do you mean? It's no fun being an adult.
I know. Sure. I know. Well, so I'm not anymore. I pretty much have a unicorn job. So.
Yes. Well, look. Let's talk about that. So you left. You graduated college. You're out in LA, and then what was the one day you woke up and said, or was there one day that or just did things start? How'd that all happen?
It's funny because I did 6 years of school, and I was like constantly just nosing my books. And then I went from that to being a complete party girl, like 7 days a week. And I don't know, I just got to a point where I'm like, there has to be something more to life than just tossing back vodka sodas in a smelly bar at night. And so that was kind of like the turning point for me. I was actually still bartending when I fell into marketing. I was in a position where I was working at a lot of places where the clientele was much younger than me. So it was like a lot of like college bars. And I guess I look young for my age. So when they hired me, they didn't know I can't remember. I was like 23 at the time. And which seems old compared to the other bartenders that were there. And so I kind of struggled because I didn't have classmates, like unless I went on campus, which is super creepy as a 23-year-old to just like try and make friends with all these like younger kids. And so I was like, what can I do? And I started turning to social media. So I was using Facebook. I started looking at like any like student groups, things like that on Facebook. And then I would connect with the students on there. And then send them a message, just letting them know, like, this is where I work. You can come see me. Here's your discount code, all of this stuff. And so I was doing social media marketing without realizing that I was doing social media marketing. And that got the attention of the company that owned all of these properties, because they're like, how is this 23-year-old that has no, like, her social circles are not with these kids, and yet she's bringing in all these college kids every night that she works. And so they brought me in and they were like, do you want to run our like social media department, which was basically just me. This was back in the day when like just having a Facebook page, if you were a company, you were like cutting edge. And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, if I have to do just the same things that I was doing, but as a company, I can probably make it work. And so I did that for a couple of years and then took over my boss's role when he moved to New York to run a restaurant. And so I was running back then, and it was a great job because I was thrown into so much, but I was running the brands for 16 different restaurants and bars throughout Ottawa. Wow. And so like I learned pretty early on how to multitask, how to create systems, how to create and develop different voices for different brands. And there were times even that I had the opportunity to create the ads. So we had, we worked a lot with the local radio station. So we created ad campaigns with them. And I got to voice a lot of those ads because I was like within the demographic that they were trying to reach. So that was super fun also.
Oh, that's great. Now, so I'm curious about something. At this point, you're still in your, early mid-20s. And you're probably dealing with some people that are either older than you or there's, older. Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
How did you, I want to make sure I ask this the right way, but did you find that they still, like they said, well, she's 23 or 24, what does she know? And when you said, look, I want to charge X amount, and they'd be like, dude, no, that's not even, or they'd be like, oh, shoot, man, she's only charging us blank when she should be. How did you start figuring out all that's the business side of things?
Yeah, I think that I just had such great experience, even though it wasn't necessarily a great experience in the beginning, because I was often put in situations where I was in the boardroom and I was the only female that was in the room. It was like a male dominated industry. Hospitality is not like the most admirable place to be. There's a lot of sketchy things that happen. So you also learn what your values are and how to approach different people and all of that stuff. So I learned that. And the age thing was like the least of my problems, because this was still, again, back in the day when social media wasn't necessarily like a business must have. It was like, oh, well, if you're cutting edge, then you'll have a Facebook page. And so I was constantly, every single company meeting, I was like justifying being on a payroll. And so I developed that scrappiness and like that, like a thick skin really early on in my career. So I'm really grateful for that.
Now, did you find though that, because, what's interesting, and let me take a half a step back. I get a lot of calls and emails and so forth. I get approached all the time as a business owner for people that are telling me that they can 10X my business and they can introduce me to high-end clients and, they can do this and that for me. And they take all these people to their, quadruple business and all that stuff. But they say all that, but they don't really tell me how they're going to do it for me specifically. And it's just a lot of empty crap. And so I'm automatically sort of skeptical when I hear people tell me that stuff until they tell me otherwise, right? And I think in your case, when you're talking to some of these people and they're saying, look, what's the point of having a Facebook page? What's the point of this? What's that really going to do? I'm guessing you had to say, look, well, for starters, 400 people just came into the restaurant over the last week because of the Facebook thing, which netted you an extra $4,200, whatever the amount is. So therefore, there's your evidence. Is that the kind of thing you would do, or?
I wasn't that advanced yet. Like my background wasn't in marketing, so they wanted numbers for sure, and it was helpful because even back then the analytics were pretty good. But I talked to them a lot about the potential. A big part of their issue was maintaining their reputation. So they were dealing with Yelp reviews and all of that stuff, and like showing them like what can happen once you like positively respond to a review and you're like looking for those reviews and how that can increase business. That was all super helpful too. But this was still like the wild, wild west. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I just thought that this would be a way, just similarly to me, like building up a guest list, that they could essentially build up a guest list with their audience. So I was trying to kind of transfer those skills.
You know, it's interesting when you say you didn't really know what you were doing. But the thing is, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because you actually did know what you're doing, or at least you knew a lot more about what you were doing than they did, right? And so when I talk to people and they lack confidence in what they know and in what they bring to the table, and I try to explain to them, look, to be an expert in something, you don't necessarily need to be 10 times better than somebody else. Like, for example, do you know how to ice skate, for example?
Yes.
Well or not well?
I wouldn't be Canadian if I couldn't ice skate,
well,
but I do not skate well.
Okay. So if I said to you, look, I'd love to someday give you some skating lessons because I play ice hockey and whatever. Now I can tell you that I'm not that good, but if I'm able to show you a few things that you don't necessarily know now, well, then I'm an expert, or I'm an expert to you, right? And so it's the same sort of thing with anything, with social media, or we'll talk about LinkedIn in a minute. Look, if you know even this much more than I do, then in my mind, in my eyes, you're an expert. And that's all I need. I don't need to have the best person on the planet. I see all the time, and I'm sure you see it too, so many people, even on LinkedIn, call themselves number one LinkedIn expert, number one guru, number one this and that. And I'm like, that's a load of crap. I couldn't care less. I mean, you know what I'd love to see, honestly, is someone who says, I'm number 482 on LinkedIn. Like something where they're
that.
Not.
Should be in your, you should do that in your headline.
I know. Number 482 best expert.
I love it.
But that would be actually pretty funny.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah, you can't do that, but I guess I can do that. Sure, fine. Anyway, that's cheating. Anyway, but look, let's jump forward a little bit, because I want to know how when you're involved in the different social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, etc., Instagram, whatever it was, but it seems like you've really glommed onto and landed on LinkedIn. I mean, this is your wheelhouse, right? Yeah. But how did you? What happened to make you decide that this was going to be your home?
Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one is that I felt throughout my career like I had a missing piece. And for me, that missing piece was the fact that I just wasn't doing creative writing. I wasn't like using that muscle, and I missed it. And so I constantly find ways to use it in my work. And then when I was laid off from the tech startup that I was working at, I thought about, the strategies that I give to other brands that I'm working with. And I would never tell a company to just send out a bunch of pamphlets or a bunch of white papers and hope for the best. And yet people were telling me, no, you just send out a bunch of resumes and wait for somebody to contact you. And I was like, as a marketer, this makes no sense at all. And so I really started kind of thinking a lot about inbound marketing and using inbound marketing as a job seeker. And so I was writing, about marketing and social media. And then, I decided to kind of dabble into also my experiences as a job seeker. And that's where I really fell in love with the platform, because I found that people actually cared about that stuff, which was really interesting for me. I always thought that, you would have the personal and professional self. And yet when I started to dig a little bit more into the research, I found that the number 3 topic, this was back in 2016, was self-esteem. And so that was exciting, because I felt like there was this hole in the market where everyone was consuming that type of content, but nobody wanted to talk about fear of failure, fear of rejection, being laid off, all of those things. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is something that I could talk about and share my experiences. The other reason is that I'm a bookworm. Like, I'm a huge dork. It's funny because sometimes I go to conferences and I'll be hanging out with people, and there's like people that know me that will come up and we'll start chatting. And then afterwards, other people will be like, how can you talk to that person? They're so dorky. And I'm like, no, I don't think you understand. These are my people. Like, I am them. I've always loved books. I've never really been like the cool kid. I've always been really dorky. I love puns. I mean, I had like a mom sense of humor when I was like 8 years old. So, I just found that the people that were on the platform were also very similar. They really love to learn. They love to grow. They would rather spend their weekends consuming documentaries than, Netflixing or going to the shopping mall. And so that, to me, I was like, these are my people. This is my tribe. So it was a mix of those two. The fact that I could use it as a creative outlet, but also I could connect with the people that I consider some of my best friends now.
Well, that's awesome. So I know that you're doing a few different things that are keeping you busy. I've picked out a couple, but we're going to go jump back into the LinkedIn swimming pool in a second. But I know you do something you call yourself a meeting mentor. What does that mean?
So I have a partnership with Crown Plaza. And so they essentially brought on a team of experts. My space would be in like the personal branding, social media space, to help them elevate the meeting experience for meeting planners and also for their team internally. So my job was really to go in and consult and share my experiences. There's a lot of meeting planners that struggle when it comes to the millennial market. So there's a lot of events that I go to that I'm like, oh my gosh, a millennial was not even considered throughout this whole process, because you see all the very stereotypical things. You have the photo booth and you have the selfie station. It's, millennials, there's more to millennials than just selfies. And so it's been such a pleasure for me to kind of add my voice into the conversation and to share my own experiences of what works, and also how you can leverage social media platforms like LinkedIn to really engage attendees. So it's been a ton of fun.
That's cool. And Now, is that something that you think can be, should all companies out there be trying to look at something like this with the meeting mentors? And I think it sounds like a great idea that Crown Plaza is doing this, but is this something that, for example, Procter & Gamble or IBM or, others should be considering doing that? And especially, as you mentioned, bringing in, really more millennials to be a part of that, because you're right. It's, you're right. It's like the stodgy old dude that's showing up part of it. I get it, whatever. Not that I would know
want more selfies.
I know, right? I don't even know what a selfie. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, but no, I think that's really cool. Now, Think Video. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Think Video has been a project that I've been working on over the past year. It's actually an existing book. If anybody's listening, reads and speaks Spanish, there is a Spanish version of it. It actually originated. So my co-authors are both from Spain. They're big wigs. They're movers and shakers. They're absolutely brilliant in the digital video marketing space. And so they created a book for their clients called Think Video. And that was released, I believe, either a year or 2 years ago. And there was such high demand for that book and releasing it in different markets. So their market is within Spain. So a lot of the case studies that they have and a lot of the influencers that they talk about are from Spain. So they needed to collaborate with co-authors in different regions throughout the world to take the case studies, make them more relevant for that market. And so I was responsible for the North American market. So really worked with a lot of influencers and looked at case studies within North America and kind of reworked the original book to fit the market. I think that there's one also that is in the works for Australia. I know that they're also working on one for I can't remember now. There's a few different books that they're working on right now, but mine is for North America. So that should be released in the next month or so. It's currently in print.
Great.
And I'm super excited. It's going to be amazing to see my name in print. I definitely did not think that my name, the first places that would be published would be Standing O, and then Think Video, a video marketing book. Never imagined that, but I'm just kind of rolling with it. It's such a pleasure to be able to just have those outlets to share my voice.
Oh, that's awesome, because it's pretty cool, and I know you know this, but it is pretty cool to have your name in print. So I might as well hold it up because I happen to have one right here. But for those of you that are watching this episode versus listening, I'm holding up the book Standing O. And, it's something that was really pulled together by a guy named Scott McGregor. And he really reached out to 50 or 60 of what he considered to be some of the, I guess, athletes, CEOs, entrepreneurs out there to contribute a chapter or an essay on somebody that they were particularly influenced by. And, I thought it was a great collection. It's really nice.
I love it.
Who did you, so tell us a little bit about your contribution to the book.
Yeah, so mine was on my mama. My mother is, it's a little dorky, but she is my hero. And so the essay is really kind of paying tribute to her helping me take steps in my life. She is an athlete. She actually, she'd be training twice a day when she was younger, all throughout her teens until she was about 18. And she was at the Olympic trials for track and field. And she pulled a muscle or something like that. Anyway, she ended up having to have surgery and sitting on the couch watching the Olympics and not being there and not being part of the Canadian team. And it was heartbreaking for her. And she essentially left the sport for about 30 years. It was decades and decades. And it wasn't until her and my dad got divorced and she was kind of left with this moment of, okay, what's next? That she decided to look into master's track and field and realize that there's a whole community of people that were 40 or even 30. I think it starts at 30, which kind of makes me feel bad. But it's for people that are older that still want to compete internationally. And so there's masters track and field competitions around the world. And so she got into it and she started off slow and now she competes worldwide. She's last year she competed in South Korea and then Budapest. She went to Spain in September. She ended up injuring herself very badly, so she's in recovery right now. She just ended up going back to the track. But she's amazing. I mean, she holds world records for her age category for the 100 and 200 meters. She's the type of person that is like, I think I'm going to try long jump today. She's just one of those people that just goes for it. And she doesn't think of her age as a limitation. And I guarantee you she's going to be that person that is going to be in the news because she's going to be in her 90s and she's still going to be competing. I have no doubt in my mind. And I think it's just amazing that she is such a strong believer in the story's not over. Kind of it's never too late to like open a new chapter. And I just think it's just awesome. She's just kicking ass. And I mean, her thighs are bigger than my head. It's crazy.
All right, never mind. That's cool. It's funny. Just a quick little thing. I mean, my contribution, and it's a super fast story, hopefully. But I'd met Scott and I told him that I'd written another book, a shameless plug for it, but Win Again. And it's basically a playbook for athletes that are transitioning into or out of their sport into a career or a business. And so we chatted about being authors and he said, well, I'm writing this book coming up. And I said, well, I'd love to write a chapter, an essay. I think I sort of invited myself to it, really invite me. But anyway, and then I ended up writing it basically like at 2 a.m. before it was due the next day, of course. Typical for me. But anyway, for a while, I was trying to think, who in my professional and personal life has really been my biggest influence? And I was thinking, geez, I kind of couldn't think of anybody, partially because it was 2 a.m. And then it like hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh my God, my mom, obviously. And so I wrote mine about my mom as well. But in my case, it was more, I wrote about how she treated others and how she was one of these moms that wanted to be not the center of attention, but we'd walk into a store and, I'd be a teenager or an 8-year-old or something. And she'd be like, hey, everybody. And they'd be like, hey, Mrs. Moyer, what's up? And she'd be like, so she was like this really outgoing, effervescent, and sometimes a little bit crazy and kooky, but I saw that she treated everyone with respect and everyone the same way, whether it was the waitress, the gas station person, anybody, the garbage person, anybody. And that really stuck with me. And so, I'm always the same way where I value everybody the same because everybody's got a contribution to make. So that was
I
my
love
little
that.
lesson. But no, it's I'm glad we're both involved with that book because it really has tied a lot of people together. I've made some really great relationships from it. But anyway, so let's pivot to something else because I know that I want to hear just a quick story about your first keynote speech and how you were kind of like, on one hand you're like and then on the other hand, look, I watched it. It was great. So tell me how it came about. Yeah, no.
Thank you. It's funny because that's like the only like full video that I have, and it just happens to be my very first keynote. So I'm like, oh gosh. My first keynote was so abnormal, completely. It was at the Sony Center. It was right after Gary Vee, and it was in front of over 2,000 people. And it was interesting because it was the first time that I had really pitched myself. So I knew the producer, I knew other people that were going to be speaking at the event. And so I called her up, and I swear I almost threw up. After I said it, I was like, oh my God, I just pitched myself completely. I told her, what my expertise was in, what I brought to the table. And yeah, I just essentially pitched myself. And she's like, you know what, Michaela? She's like, I get pitches from dudes about 3 times a week. I get maybe 2 pitches from women a year.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I'm so glad that I did it. You never know unless you ask. I never would have been asked on my own, but me just asking allowed me to essentially have like that first keynote and get that out of the way where you're speaking in front of thousands of people. And then everything after that just seems so easy. But it was definitely a struggle. The day of, I was so nervous. I actually recorded the whole thing. I was posting stories on Instagram stories, just like me getting ready. And I really struggled to even leave my hotel room because it was just such a big jump for me. I used to be agoraphobic and I couldn't leave my house. I had a phobia of crowds and people. And so to go from that and a few years later to speaking at the Sony Center in front of thousands of people, to me felt like a really, really big leap. And, but it was really good because I feel like so many people are constantly showcasing, like if you saw the video, you probably wouldn't know any of that. The fact that like, I was like so nervous. I was so afraid to leave my hotel room even. But me sharing that was really fantastic because I used the hashtag for the event. And then I ended up having people that were already at the event reaching out to me and being like, you can do it. You can do it.
Great.
And so when I finally got on stage, then it became not a story of like, who's this girl talking about LinkedIn? She's a LinkedIn expert or whatever. To, oh my gosh, this girl couldn't even leave her hotel room like hours ago. And here she is, and she's on stage. She's just like us, right? So that was another learning moment for me to really try and connect with the audience. Don't necessarily just try to impress them. And really understand that every single person that's sitting in front of you is a human that has fears, that most of those people would be terrified to be doing what you're doing. So if you can connect it with them on an emotional level, it really is going to make the whole thing just so much easier. And actually, I don't know if you noticed in my talk, one of the very first things that I said was, guys, this is my very first keynote. And that I had rehearsed that talk millions of times, like so many times. That was never part of the keynote.
Oh, interesting.
And yet I got up there and I just felt like that was something that I needed to get out there and it just changed the entire talk. You can see my face start to relax, my body language start to change after that, because once people cheered and they were like, yeah, you can do it. Then I was like, okay, it's not me versus them. So yeah, it was such a great lesson.
Well, look, and at the end of the day, it's funny because public speaking can be really, it's, you're right. Very few people can actually do it. And, one thing I realized pretty early on is that, and I try to constantly remind myself, is that they're not there to necessarily watch Mark Moyer speak. They're there to listen to what the message is and what they can derive from it, what the results are, what the lesson is. And so, I don't need to worry as much about like, gee, is my hair looking this or my shirt looking that or whatever, because they don't give a crap. No. They don't at all, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that initially speakers really struggle with. I remember part of what you talked about, which was great, was the whole, like, what the hell am I going to wear? The outfit, the outfit issue. And I thought I loved where you landed with it, but you can tell that story real quick.
Yeah. So at the beginning of my talk, because I wanted to tie it back to the message, which was, it doesn't matter as long as you show up as yourself. So I tried on different outfits. So I shared one where I was looking like Gary Vee, one where I was looking like an intellectual, one where I was wearing like an 80s style outfit. And then I just showed up as me. And so if you can find ways to kind of share those stories and then tie it back to your message, it usually lands pretty well. And then it depends on the audience sometimes, because I realize how Canadian I am when I had that keynote, because I don't know if you noticed in that talk, I talked about Mr. Dress Up, who is a very beloved Canadian kids performer, entertainer. He's kind of like Mr. Rogers.
Oh, okay.
And so when I talked about Mr. Dress Up there, like people are like, yeah, Mr. Dress Up, because it's all these people that watched him growing up. I go to the States and I have to explain to people, because Mr. Dress Up had a tickle trunk, which is super creepy. Now that I think about it, but growing up, I never thought it was creepy. Everybody wanted a tickle trunk, right? We all talked about our tickle trunks. Again, sounds super weird out loud. So when I go to the States, I actually have to explain that when I say tickle trunk, I'm not talking about BDSM. And that's just become like a joke, but it's so funny watching the difference between the Canadian versus the American audiences that are like, that is so weird, Michaela. And the Canadian audience is like, yeah, tickle trunks.
That's great. That's very funny. Well, I guess adapting to the audience is usually pretty important, but look, I think that for the most part, I mean, I'm not saying this to stroke the ego too much, but you seemed for somebody who is so, churning on the inside, you seem pretty natural on the outside. And I think that's a lot of when people pick up on that, then it becomes a lot easier. When you appear to be nervous and scared, and then the audience notices that and they don't listen to what you're saying, kind of thing. Right. So,
I think it's just exactly like you said, if you can focus on just serving people. And I think that's something that I learned from LinkedIn, is that you see people all the time, they're bragging about their promotion, they're bragging about this, and nobody cares unless, you'll get pity likes from people that you work with or colleagues that are trying to get in your good graces and all that. But you're not connecting with people. So if you can kind of drop this facade and understand that it's not about you, again, it's about your message, it's about the value, the things that that you can share with those people. And every time I get on stage, I tell myself, I'm like, I can change people's lives with this message, because I was a broke job seeker when I started on LinkedIn. And now I have this amazing job where I get to travel the world. I get to work with the people that I want to work with and do what I love. And I never thought any of this was possible. So I think of myself in the position of those people where either they've lost their jobs, they're about to lose their jobs, or they don't know that there's anything better than what they're working in. And so if I can change the mindset of even one person, and they can do not necessarily what I'm doing, but doing what they love,
right.
I mean, it makes me going up there and feeling like I'm going to throw up in advance all worth it,
That's great. That's so true. So look, let's jump forward to this whole LinkedIn thing, because you and I both view it the same way, and you really spend a lot of time focusing on this. But I think most people view LinkedIn as a place to sort of, I have my profile on there, and hopefully maybe someone will find me, or maybe they won't. But it's on there. I'm on there. I'm fine. And very, very few people really use it to its fullest, right? They don't necessarily. I mean, I try to coach my clients to create content, and they often say, well, what do I know, or what can I write about? And I tell them, look, just write down, if it's someone who's in investment banking or something, say, well, the top 4 things to look for when you're considering an investment. Just, create content that gives back, right? Like you've been talking about. But I guess first of all, I'd love to hear, you started doing your work with LinkedIn, but what was that day that LinkedIn said, you know what, we like what you're doing. you're going to now be an influencer. And poof, you went from, 26 people following you to 27 billion. So how did what happened there?
So it was while I was looking for a job, and like I mentioned before, I was writing these articles and doing all this stuff. And then one day I just, I was in a position where I had nothing to lose. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to send out a single resume, guys. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I bring to the table. If you know of anything, let me know. Didn't think anything of it at all. And then all of a sudden I had these strangers, people I hadn't met that were in Ottawa, that were like, I don't know you. We don't have a role for you, but we'll make a role for you because I thought that what you did was super ballsy. And I was like, okay. And I started going on 3 interviews a day, which had never happened anytime I'd ever looked for a job before. I turned down 4 job offers within a 2-week period. And so I knew that I was like, oh my God, I found this amazing, it's like a gold mine for job seekers. What is everybody doing? Like, why are we all waiting for months for a callback when you can do it a totally different way?
Right.
And so the article that I wrote that ended up going viral initially for me was called How I Landed My Dream Job in 2 Weeks on LinkedIn. And it was essentially an update because so many people have become invested in my story. They were like, where are you interviewing today? How come you haven't updated us in like a day? I'm like, oh my God, here you go, guys. This is where I ended up landing and this is how I did it. And, went and did like my chores. I had to get my criminal background check and all that. I went and got all the stuff done that you have to do before you start a new job.
Yeah.
I come back and I try to open the LinkedIn app on my phone and it just keeps like shutting down. Like it won't even open. And like, that's super weird, but LinkedIn's glitchy. Yeah. And so I go on the desktop version and it opens, but then I try to go to like, they used to have an analytics section where it showed like who's viewing your profile and all that stuff. And every time I tried to go to that section, it just shut down. Like I was having to restart my computer. Huh. And I was like, okay, that's super weird. And then finally I get onto LinkedIn and I start to see the numbers of new connection requests. And it's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And I realized pretty quickly within about a day that like it was going massively viral. Like I think it ended up landing at 21,000 likes and like 10,000 shares of the update, 100,000 views on the article. Wow. It got picked up by like LinkedIn reached out to me within an hour and then they promoted it on their channels. They sent me a huge box, which had like, it was super cute. It had like a handwritten note saying, congratulations on your new job and some LinkedIn swag. And that was probably the moment I went from a couple hundred to 13,000 followers within like a week period. Wow. And then I was like, I really want to write about this stuff. So I spent the next 3 years essentially writing and being kind of like a career blogger, and blogger is how I explain it to most people because people understand the concept of a YouTuber that shares their daily life. And I do something that's very similar, but I share my career and the lessons that I'm learning. So it's more on like the professional space, but it's been a ton of fun. There was one campaign that I did a few years ago called Michaela's Mug Museum. I had this like rusty, dirty, old bookshelf. And I was like, you know what? I'm a hit with like the job seekers, but how can I serve the rest of my audience of people that are trying to impress their bosses, they're entrepreneurs that are trying to launch a product. And so I put it out. I'm like, here's an empty bookshelf. Send me your mug, your company mug, and tell me your story, and I'll share it with my network. And I had thought I would end up getting like 5 or 6 mugs, and I ended up getting over 250. I had to shut down the campaign because I was getting like 10 to 15 mugs, like boxes delivered to the office per day. It was just ridiculous. And I spent so much time on the phone with FedEx. But it was amazing because some of those mugs ended up being clients either for me when I launched my agency or now me working solo. And that's just been like amazing. The fact that, years ago they sent me the mug and now we had this business connection.
So I guess I won't send you my mug. But but we were talking about the idea that maybe I should have like the, the red wine or the beer, the beer club or the beer something, and then have people send me beer, which I think that'd be kind of cool. But anyway,
I mean, there's all sorts of creative ways. Everybody just wants to like, just because things have gone more digital doesn't mean that we've lost a human need to connect. That's a reality. Like community is still there. It just looks different.
Right.
And so when people think, like when your clients are talking about what do I know, you don't need to talk about what you know. It's not like you go to your office and then you're just like, here are 5 things that you need to know for to ask your mortgage professional. That's not how you talk to other people. You
Right.
can get on LinkedIn and talk about a podcast that you consume. Maybe it's a book that you just read that you want your coworkers. So really start to think of this as like a huge workspace, or I like to call LinkedIn the world's largest networking event that's open 24/7. So don't necessarily think about like, how can you look like an expert, but how can you just talk to people? How can you shake that person's hand?
Right.
And that really does make a huge difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So give me, I'd love to hear from you. So, we're going to have a fair amount of people watching and listening to this, and maybe many of them don't really understand the full power that LinkedIn really provides. So maybe if you can give me 2 or 3 or 4 things that you would throw out there that, might be either myths about LinkedIn or things that people should know about it.
Sure.
And action items. What should they do right away?
So my process with clients is always optimize, strategize, and then monetize. So you start with your profile. It's essentially, this is your website. This is like your personal website. It's your career museum. And people don't understand that you can convert using your profile. So if you have spaces on your profile that are missing, like your summary, where you're sharing who you are, what you have to offer, what other people say about you, and how to get in touch, those are really critical pieces that you're missing. And so when I talk to people, when I have people that approach me and they're like, I want to start a video series, I'm like, okay, but your profile looks terrible. So we're going to start there actually, because if you're not converting new business on your LinkedIn profile, then there's something that's missing. Right. It's either that or you're a student and you just don't have the experience yet. But for most people, it's things that are missing, information that people need to make a decision about you. And so quick plug, I actually offer a 3-hour course on LinkedIn profile optimization, absolutely free. So I can send you the link for that. And anybody that's interested in kind of getting their LinkedIn profile up to speed can take that.
Where should wait, time out. Where should they find it? Go to your website or on LinkedIn, or what's the best way to do that?
You can go to my website, or you can go on LinkedIn. If you look at my summary, I actually include a call to action. It's pretty early on in my summary where I give a gift away. And the gift is, I think it's a 3-hour course, and I change it from time to time. But that's another way that you can convert, right? Offer people a gift. They've come to your page.
That's very generous. That's great, because you know what? Most people try to put it in as a $29 blah 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 or something, right? So
that's not a real gift, right? It's kind of like giving your company mug as like a Christmas gift. And that drives me crazy. Like, why are you giving swag away for people when you haven't earned the right to give your swag away? You know what I mean? So anyways, that's a tangent.
I better not get them choking.
So that would be my first step, is optimize your LinkedIn profile and make sure you're starting to convert opportunities using that. And then create a strategy for both your personal brand and then your corporate brand. So if you run a small to medium-sized business, LinkedIn is focused on giving you organic traction in 2019. That is incredibly important information. Previously, their focus has been on enterprise, getting them to get the big corporate profiles up, spend more money to like put up their job postings, spend more money in advertising dollars. Now they're shifting their focus over to the smaller fish, right? The small guys, the little guys. And that's really great news, because it's an opportunity for any company that's looking to create to really have a lot of impact next year. So you want to have it from both angles. So you want to have your corporate brand. What are you going to be sharing on there? Who are you trying to reach? How do you want them to feel? What actions do you want them to take? What are your goals? And this can't be like, for some people, they're like, well, followers. No. Followers is not a goal. That might be a measurement, but your goal needs to be the bottom, basically your bottom line. Right? How are you generating opportunities? And I think sometimes people get confused because they think social media is about likes and shares and comments, and engagement is important. But I can't pay my bills. I can't pay my mortgage on the number of followers that I have. My followers my followers matter to me, but me building my network would not matter to me if I wasn't able to survive. Right. So that has to be the utmost priority, is your business or your personal brand surviving. So that's number one. And then on your personal brand side, who are you trying to reach? Same thing, you can divide it into series. Maybe one day you're going to talk about the podcast that you consume. Maybe the next day you're going to ask for book recommendations. People love to give their opinions. So it can be as simple, if you're just getting started, ask people, what is that life-changing book for anybody that's in business? What's that book that totally changed your career? People love to give their answers on that. And actually, I did a full blog post because I put that out as a question, and people were looking at this thread of thousands of people that were commenting, and someone's like, somebody please make this a blog post. Please make it. It was too good. Right. So I ended up doing a blog post. So it was the life-changing business books according to 50,000 people on LinkedIn. And it's this huge, huge list of business books. But things like that, again, look at that. I just started it started as a question, took me 2 seconds. I just listened to the
course. Yeah.
And then it became content that I can use. And then I could divide it. I could make it a blog post about life-changing books that are fiction related or that are mindset related. So there's all sorts of ways that you can repurpose that content, but figure out who you want to reach for each strategy.
Now, in terms of I've been on LinkedIn for between 2,000 and 3,000 years, I think. And I've seen so many, I feel like every day I go to do something and they've tweaked things around a little bit. And so they're constantly monkeying with things. So sometimes it can be challenging to, especially if someone wants to write a book about, this is how you use LinkedIn. By the time it comes out, everything's different, right?
Yeah.
The way that they're managing groups now, and they're used to different ways of doing things, right? But in your opinion, for someone fairly new to LinkedIn, once they get their profile optimized, what's the best way, in your opinion, for them to really grow a network of like people that they should be connecting? It's one thing to be like reaching out to, connect with everybody, but that's that can be a waste of time, right? So how do you get an optimal network to be connected to?
So LinkedIn groups are probably your best place to start. So there's 2 ways you can approach it. So there's groups that are local. So for me, it would be like Ottawa professionals, like business communities within my area. And then there's people within my industry or niche. So I might look into social media groups. I'm part of event planner groups. So I want to reach more event planners. I'm a speaker. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to start trying to spark up conversations that way as well. So there's 2 approaches there. The other way that you can do it is search. Search filters are fantastic. So if you want to reach other marketers within your community, search for marketers within your community, reach out to them and say that. Like, don't just send the message or don't just send the connection request, but actually say, I'm really looking to connect with other marketers within the community. I've seen some of your work. It looks really cool. I'd love to follow you and see what else you're up to and have a conversation. People are very receptive to messages as long as you're honest and you're transparent about what your motives are. So I think that's another way. Hashtags are really fantastic. Hashtags are relatively new on LinkedIn. So you can look up different communities, see what other people are sharing in terms of their hashtags and follow those hashtags so it shows up in your feed. So that would be another way. My favorite way of connecting is when I listen to a podcast or when I read a book, the first thing that I do after I've consumed it is I go on LinkedIn, I see if the author or the interviewer or interviewee is on the platform, and I reach out to them and I reference either the book or the podcast episode that I listened to. And so that's just a great way of, you like this person, well, chances are they're also connected to other people that you're going to like, right? So you look at their content, you interact with them, you see who else is interacting with them, and your network grows from there.
That's great. That's awesome, because it's funny. I like to do the same thing where if I read an article that's particularly compelling, and it might be in another magazine, Fortune or Forbes or something, I'd like to do the same thing. And it's interesting because a lot of times the authors or whoever's putting this out, they're caught off guard a little bit because you're right.
People don't do that.
Don't normally do it. They don't do that,
no,
right?
They don't do that.
So they're flattered. They're like, "You read it? Wow, that's awesome."
No, you know what I love, and this is one of the reasons that I love LinkedIn so much, is that I've had posts where I've talked about a book. There was one post that I did, and I was talking about Never Split the Difference by
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's such a good book. Anyway, so I post this thing. It's a review of the book. And I'm connected to Chris because we've connected after I read the book. And he goes on and he's having conversations with people in the threads, and I'm asking questions and he's answering the questions, which is that information is nowhere. It's not on the internet. It's not in a podcast interview. It's nowhere. That's so valuable to have an actual conversation with the author or the person that you admire is just, it's just mind blowing.
And you know what? And I tell people sort of almost say only on LinkedIn. I mean, the way my whole, a lot of my coaching shifted over to helping athletes out. And I just not randomly, but I connected with Theo Fleury, who's a big name, especially in Canada, because his autobiography is the single highest selling autobiography in Canadian history, 600,000 copies. And he has such a compelling story, but I reached out to him on LinkedIn and he accepted. I was like, wow, this is
it crazy?
And then we started a dialogue and we spoke for several hours. I gave him some coaching and then he ended up, writing an endorsement for the book and all this stuff. And all of this is simply from, let me take a step and I'm going to tell you a quick little LinkedIn story and we can move on to some more stuff, but super fast. I was speaking to a corporate group of sales managers. And the reason I was there that day to speak was that the head guy had read my book. And he said, Mark, I read your book. I loved it. I especially love the segments you talk about between LinkedIn and networking and how to, use that to increase effectively sales and the way you're perceived. And so I want you to talk to my people about that. So when I was speaking to the audience, I said, listen, it's essential that you join LinkedIn groups. And people are like, whatever. And I said, well, let me tell you a little story. Me speaking today here, I'm making some pretty good money to be here today. And the reason I'm here today is because this guy read my book. The reason he read my book and the reason I had a book was that I coached a retired hockey player and helped him go from his couch to accepting a job. And he told me I need to help retired athletes. And the only reason I started working with him was because I connected with another guy who spotted my content that was posted in a group called Hockey Players Doing Business. And the only reason I posted content in that group was because I joined that group. So I said, look, I joined a group and now I'm speaking today for a few $1,000. Boom. And that's the progression. So I totally, I love the strategies that you talk about and you give, and it's so important. And you know this, and I probably shouldn't be over talking a little bit, but quite frankly, it's, we're both so excited about this stuff, but you seem to be always on the leading edge of what they're doing and what they plan on doing. Right. I know that you've talked about, and I need to work on, the importance of having a company page that stands out. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's funny because I kind of came to a crossroads when I started working solo, because I had two different messages and two different audiences, essentially. So I had people that followed me because they loved hearing about where my career was headed. They loved seeing my goofy face in their feed, whatever it may be. So they were following my career blogging. And so that was one group. And then the other group were the people that were interested in LinkedIn training. They wanted to, optimize their profile. They wanted to build their strategy, all of that stuff. So that was a separate group. And I'm like, well, how do I service both of these groups? Because if I talk about LinkedIn training, then I'm turning off one side. If I talk about, my career, like milestones, then I'm not serving the people that are looking for training. And so I started to look at LinkedIn pages. And I was a little confused at first because I'm like, can you start a LinkedIn page if you're an individual? Like if you're a solopreneur or a solo practitioner? And you can, there's an option for it. And what I loved about that is that I had a website at the time, but I didn't want to use my website because I'm a big believer in just like no BS. You know, if you are a LinkedIn expert, you better be able to find leads and close business through the platform. That's what I believe. So if I'm saying like, yeah, 80% of my like business comes from like Google searches, then I'm not quite a LinkedIn expert, right? So I was like, okay, I want to use a platform completely throughout my sales process. And so what I really liked about LinkedIn Pages too is that I could share some of that training material and it would actually house it as a portfolio. So if you share something, say you as Mark, you're sharing a really great piece of content today. By next week, by next Monday, it's pretty much gone, right? Because it's not going to show up in people's news feeds. The only way they can see it is if they go to your profile and then look at activity. And most people don't even know how to do that.
Right.
And so that's a bummer, because then you end up having to kind of repurpose the same thing over and over again.
Sure.
Whereas your company page, if you post something, say you post a training video on there, it's just there. Like people can scroll through like a news or like what do they call it on Facebook? I'm so all on LinkedIn that I don't even use Facebook anymore, but it used to be a wall. I guess now it's I don't know.
Mountain?
Facebook,
I don't know. Yeah.
Facebook profile feed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's the same sort of idea where everything is housed and then people can scroll through.
Sure.
So people are still able to look at content that I've posted 6 months ago, which is fantastic. And so I started off slow. I would post one training video per week on my page. And then when I started to see that people were really interested in those training videos, I was like, okay, what other content can I create? But before I did that, I was like, well, what are the audiences that I'm trying to serve? So I knew that I was trying to serve people like you that are already super active on the platform, but might not know like certain little things that I could teach you. So I call them like LinkedIn all-star tips. So they're like little things that I've just learned throughout the week. And then I have people that are just starting on LinkedIn. Maybe they've set up a profile, maybe they haven't, and they're like halfway through. So that's LinkedIn 101. So it's those people that, just like you mentioned, what do I do now? And so those tips are for them. And then I'm really focused again on company pages now. So I have LinkedIn lessons for brands, and that's really focused on like writing tips and how can you engage people as a brand on the platform. And then there's a few other ones, but they're essentially a little series of content. And my page just started taking off. Like now it's at 5,000 followers, which in comparison to 130,000 doesn't seem like a lot. But these are, to me, much more qualified, because I started to think about the process of how does somebody actually find a page. So for me, it's I'm posting a piece of content. They're consuming the content. So that's one step. They're clicking on my profile to learn more about me. That's 2 steps. They're scrolling down to my experience. That's 3 steps. They're clicking on my company icon, like the logo or the name. That's 4 steps. And then they're clicking on follow to follow the page. So they've essentially put their hand up quite a few times to say, I'm interested in this subject. So I've already somewhat qualified these people, and these are potentially people that might buy from me in the future. So that was really exciting for me. Yeah, it's also, you have more room to be able to be salesy because they're there for that. They've already said, I'm here for it. I might not buy today, but I might buy tomorrow. Whereas, if you as Mark are posting right now, you might turn off a lot of your audience because maybe they're their former colleagues, maybe they're old coworkers, and they're interested in what Mark is doing right now, but they're not interested in actually buying from you, right?
Right.
So I think it's all about just serving, trying to find ways to serve your audience in the best way possible. This, for me, has been the best way possible. Yeah. LinkedIn pages are so exciting for me. They just announced this huge makeover. So they're now not called LinkedIn company pages. They're actually called LinkedIn pages.
Okay.
They're essentially duplicating what Facebook has done and really focusing on Facebook pages. So LinkedIn has introduced things like content suggestions. So a lot of companies struggle with, okay, well, I want to curate content, but what's important to my audience? So now what you can do is you can actually go to the section where it shows you your followers. You can click on your followers, or you could even click on all LinkedIn members, choose the niche that you're trying to attract, and it's going to pull up articles that they've already consumed and engaged with. Like mind blowing, right? It's amazing. It like cuts out so much guesswork for so many people. It actually shows the engagement rate for each article.
Oh, that's great.
Whether
Wow.
it's on your followers. Yeah,
Right.
it's huge. So that's one thing. Another thing is they're giving pages a lot more options in terms of how they can interact with other people. So if your employee is mentioning your company, you can reshare that on your company page. So it's really focusing on getting your employees more engaged with the company. A lot of employees
That's
have been asking
important.
for that, right?
Yeah, of
How do I
course.
stay on top of what's
Yeah.
happening within my company, what they're posting? So they're looking for ways to do that as well. One thing that's really exciting for me, so this is going to be happening in the next few months, but you are going to have the ability to invite all of your connections on LinkedIn to follow your company page.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And
But
so
it's
that's
not yet though, right? It's coming up at
it's
some
not
point.
yet. It's
Okay,
coming
got
up
it.
in
All right.
2019. I just talked to the product manager like a few days ago. It got me so excited because think
Yeah,
of something like myself. Oh, it
of
can't be all of my
course.
followers. It's my connection. So it's
Right.
30,000 connections, but that is 30,000 people that I could invite to like my
Instead
page.
of one at a time, which is the way it is now, pretty much,
Yes.
right? It's
So
yeah,
and that's
yeah,
why I'm really telling people that you
yeah,
need to focus both on your personal brand
yep.
and your company page, because if you can start really focusing on attracting the right types of connections on your personal brand, well, then you can invite them to your company page and kind of like feed them down your funnel, and then hopefully eventually turn those followers into clients down the road.
Well, and
It's
also
so
you can
exciting.
ask
So
you can
exciting.
ask those people to tell their networks to follow your page too.
Exactly.
So it definitely spreads. There's one other thing that you need to tell us about, because I know
Yeah.
you're pretty excited about it. Doc Upload.
Yeah, so not everybody has it, which is
Yeah.
something that I've learned, but most people have the feature. If not, again, LinkedIn is known for a slow rollout, meaning
Right.
that they don't just release a feature to their entire community. It's like, it doesn't make sense to do that to like over 500 million active users.
Yeah. Right.
But there is an option now where you can upload a document. So I can't remember all of the options, but you can do a PDF, you can do a PowerPoint presentation, you can do a Word document. Those are like the main ones that most people would use. And that is super, super exciting to me, because there have been features that they've released, like video filters. And there's going to be people that are like, I'm never going to do video. I just don't care about it. It takes so much time. I don't want to edit it, or it seems silly to me. It's just not their style. And that's cool, but they need other tools that they can use to hopefully turn their followers into potential clients, or maybe people that will refer business to them, right? That's the whole idea with LinkedIn. And so this is really exciting, because now you can upload a document. So I've seen people do it a bunch of different ways. Some of my favorites that I've seen, so I did a checklist. I just uploaded a checklist a week ago, and it's reached over 500,000 views and like 500 shares already. This is content that is
Now, can you are you able to, I mean, is LinkedIn okay if you're saying, here's the checklist on how to do maybe blah, 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 and then at the bottom say, call me for more, or reach out to me? They're cool with that.
And you absolutely should. Like, you should have a call to action, everything. Like, if you're giving away free content, you better get some sort of a return on it.
Yes.
It can't be views, right?
Right.
So I've seen that. I saw another girl that, Rachel Chang, she's fantastic. She's a great creator. And she just released a workbook on like your goals for 2019, which is topical. It was just brilliant. It looks pretty. So she made this worksheet that people can download. So it's like a template and they can fill it out. I've seen other people. I have a friend of mine, Brian Wallace, and his company does infographics. And he asked me, he's like, how do you think I can use a document feature? I'm like, put that puppy into a document or into a PDF, split it up into pages, and then upload it. And he did. And he has these beautiful infographics that are now these documents that people can download, and it looks amazing. I've also done one. I did a guide to passive aggressive emailing, just to test out the feature and have fun with it. And so each page had like the word that you use or the phrase that you use and what it actually means. And people love that. They shared it a ton. And that was just a super fun way to use it. So you can use humor. You can use thought leadership. You can be a helpful resource. It can be as simple as, here's a blank calendar, write whatever you want at it, right? So there's tons of different ways to do it, but I just think it's such a powerful tool for business development, especially when people are sharing something that's branded with your company logo and your information.
That's incredible. That's really great. So listen, we're about to jump into my little favorite segment. It's called the Hit Your Mark segment. Thank God I'm named Mark, because if I was named, Bob or something,
Michaela.
Michaela, however you pronounce it. Anyway, Coyote. Anyway, but before we jump in, what's the best way for people to chase you down, to reach out to you, to find out more about what you're doing, all that sort of thing?
The best way to find out and follow what I'm doing and look at some of the content that I'm creating is probably to follow me on LinkedIn. Yeah. My name is just Michael with an A, Alexis. So you can search for that on LinkedIn. The other place you can find me, and probably the best place to find me, is on my website, which is micalexis.com. There's all sorts of free resources there. You can find the link for the 3-hour free course. You can find workbooks and checklists and all of these great things that you can use to up your LinkedIn game. And there's also all of my information in terms of how you can email me and contact me. And that's probably the best way, because my LinkedIn inbox is a hot mess.
Oh yeah. Mick is M-I-C-K Alexis, right?
M-A-C-K Alexis.
Got it. .com. Got it. And then, now, are you on other social media, or you try not to be as much, or what's your?
I use Instagram quite a bit. Cool. I like to use Instagram stories to do a behind the scenes of a lot of my talks. Is Mick Alexis.
It is Mick. Okay, got it. Cool.
Yeah.
This is awesome. So you ready for this? The answer is yes, I'm ready for this. All right, it's going to be a bunch of quick questions. Number one, I'd love to know what talent you have that is absolutely useless.
Oh my God, this one's so easy. Are you ready for it? Anybody that's listening is not going to know what it is.
All right. For those of you wondering and they're listening, she was able to touch both her elbows to her. No, I'm kidding. I'll let you tell people what you just did.
So I can touch my nose with my tongue. Totally useless.
Yeah, nah, I can't do that. That is. Yeah, probably.
I don't know if it's impressive or not.
Now, I know you've been to a lot of places, not because of work, but for all reasons. Give me a favorite spot you've been to.
Oh God, you know what? This is such a PC answer, but I love every single place that I have ever been. Because there's people. I've created such a wonderful community on LinkedIn that I get an opportunity to hang out with people everywhere I go. So I love Dubai. Dubai as a place was just incredible. It's just so extravagant and over the top. But the thing that I love most about Dubai was the conversations. I had dinner with all sorts of people, 5-hour dinner conversations, just made great friends there. But I also loved places like Dubuque, Iowa. Is so cute and quaint, and I had great conversations with people there. I had dinner with a whole bunch of friends, got to try Chick-fil-A for the first time. But I think
fine dining.
Yeah, Madrid was fantastic. It was a dream come true.
Yeah.
But I think that, it's travel is the one thing that you can buy that makes you richer. And I truly believe that. I think of every single place that I've gone, and I have special memories from each and every one. I'm sorry, that was such a PC answer, but it's true.
I'll buy it. So the next one is, and not to get you too controversial here, but what is the one piece of advice that you hear that drives you bananas because it's complete BS?
When it comes to LinkedIn, or just in general?
Just in general, or LinkedIn, whichever one.
I think in general, it's that you're supposed to be a certain way. It's complete bullshit. I believe that for a very long time in my career, that a professional looked and spoke a certain way and did certain things. And I remember, I used to be that person that would stay at work until 7:00 at night, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter for the people that I was working for, nor should it have, really, because I think now as a business owner, and it's really about what kind of impact can you make. It's not how many how busy are you during the day?
Right.
And so that was really important, having that shift for me where I stopped it's funny because I'm wearing black right now, but stopped wearing so much black and just like embraced who I was. Like, I mean, I've posted on LinkedIn stories about crotches. I have posted videos of me dancing on a table in a bathrobe. I have, like, you name it. I've done the stupidest things on LinkedIn. And I think that it's, for some people, it's just a complete turnoff and they will never want to be anywhere near me. But for people that have been raised the same way that I have, they really do appreciate it, because so many of us are afraid to be who we are and show how weird we are. I mean, I've always been this way since I was little. My mom, like, she sees my stuff now and she's like, you are exactly.
You are you.
This is not an act. Like, I don't act this. It's not like I'm acting goofy just to get like laughs. Right. I am this person. And I've never been happier in my entire life, just because I've been able to embrace that side of myself.
It's funny you should say that, because I've always, like right now, if you think I'm at all funny or goofy, it's completely an act. I'm usually a really super serious, always professional, corporate type of guy. And so I think people are often misled by these podcasts. Just kidding. So anyway, ask anybody who knows me. They're like, they roll their eyes like, oh my God. Anyway, and then when, this is a totally random question, but I'm assuming you own a like a yacht or a boat or something.
Of course. A dozen of them.
But if you did own one, what would you call it?
Ooh, probably something really inappropriate.
All right. You can't say like, I love LinkedIn, because then, I know you want to suck up to them, but that's probably a little extensive. Well, you're going to I'll let you chew on that one. Here's another hard one for you. Maybe give me 3 people, alive or dead, that you'd love to have a drink with.
Oh my gosh.
Whatever.
Okay. Brene Brown, Maya Angelou. And then, I don't know, it would probably be somebody like really ridiculous, like the Catch Me Outside girl from Dr. Phil. The Catch Me Outside girl from Dr. Phil. You know, the viral videos where I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Now you're going to have to go look it up.
I'm not a Dr. Phil guy.
There's going to be one person that knows who I'm talking about. She actually is like a huge rapper now. I think she's called like Baby something. I don't know. I really like reality TV, and I really like trashy reality TV. Like on my screen right now, I'm playing Love After Lockup, and it's about like couples that, Anyways, so I have 2 sides of me. I really like that, like inspirational, motivational, like guru kind of those books and podcasts and poetry and all that. And then the total just trash side of me that just loves like Love After Lockup and 90 Day Fiance and the Kardashians and just you name it.
I guess I'm not necessarily in that realm of the trash and Kardashian. That's not.
Oh, good for you. I'm not saying it as like.
Don't worry. I have my other complete waste of time. Trust me.
No, that's totally a vice of mine.
That's hilarious. Well, look, on that note, I love ending with a Hit Your Mark segment, because it's always interesting to hear some things that maybe your usual fans don't necessarily know, other than, of course, dancing on a table in your bathrobe, which I guess I've got to see at some point. But
it's in my recap video for 2018.
All right, I'll definitely check that out then. But in the meantime, look, you've been awesome. It's been, look, I love conversations like this because they just flow so easily. You truly, truly know your craft and know your stuff. And I really do hope that our listeners really sort of go, not only flock to your page, and because look, anything that they can learn, as you said, is going to make them that much better. It's going to be a big, giant step forward. So thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
You've been a blast. And say hi to the dogs for me.
I will.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us today on this episode of Make Your Mark podcast. The goal of the podcast is to help you find ways to make your mark, to succeed in life, and to jump past your competition. Be sure to leave me a review on iTunes and Stitcher, and subscribe to be the first to hear new episodes. If you're looking for ways to make your mark, send me an email, mark@markmoyer.com, and I'll get back to you right away. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.